right, guys, welcome to a special edition of Talking Preps Overtime. We're going to give away the Mr. Football Award. I know everybody wants to know who won. We've also got the two 4A coaches on the show. We've got Mike Wilbanks and Shelby's coaching the 2A game. Should be an exciting show. I'm going to bring in the guys you're familiar with hosting the Overtime show. There's Chris Hughes, there's Coach Grice. I'm going to get out of the way and let you guys get going. Take it.
All right, Coach Grice, here we are heading into the state championships. Can you believe we're finally here? You and I have seen a lot of good football in the past weeks, and it looks like we will be treated to another big game. Rematch between week one, Cardinal Gibbons and Chambers here in the 4A state championship. Man, I think this is what we had kind of anticipated. What do you think?
I mean, we watched that week one game and we knew that, hey, if this game ever came back around, we were going to be in for a treat. And it actually has come through. I mean, I think at certain points in the year, we weren't sure if it would be the game, whether it was on the west side or the east side. Now we've got the game I think that a lot of people have been anticipating. So I'm excited. Again, a special time of year calls for a special show. I'm glad that we can get into some fun stuff today.
We're going to bookend this season with the classic matchup between Gibbons and Chambers the first week, and now we're going to do it in the season. Hey, let's bring on the head football coach of Cardinal Gibbons, Coach Stephen Wright. I know I've talked a lot to him lately about these upcoming games. I know, Coach, you're excited about the game. It's always got to be exciting to play a team for a second time. You get to look back at your film, evaluate mistakes you made, maybe try to evaluate them a little bit further. How do you feel about this game this week?
Well, first off, appreciate you guys having me on. Honored to be on with you all. And yeah, I mean, listen, anytime you can get yourself to a state championship game, it's been a great season, and certainly is going to be an exciting week for us. So we're excited. We've already gotten to work a little bit, and looking forward to see what this week has.
I know you're early into your game planning, and the coach in me is always fascinated the second time you play an opponent. I was able to watch the first game that you guys played, not giving away too much, but what are maybe one or two things that you already see immediately that you're going to emphasize to your guys in practice this week?
Well, I think first and foremost is take care of the football. We handed Chambers 14 points on turnovers with a pick six and then a scoop and score for them. And so obviously that's going to be a focus for us this week. And then obviously, we're going to see how we can, potentially slow them down a little bit. Dealing with Roseville last week, I think gave us a little bit of a preview of what we'd have to, do this week. Obviously Chambers is very talented. They've got a number of offensive weapons, and then they're loaded on defense as well. So, it's going to be interesting. I think it could be a good competitive game, and I could see this thing going really one of two ways. I could see it turning into a little bit of a defensive slugfest, low scoring, but I could also see it going the other way and it being a little bit closer to what we had in week one, where a 35-29, a 42-35 type of score.
Yeah, and I felt like, on our side in the Western Final, we got a little bit of that with Huff and Chambers, where you had the first half where it was kind of a slugfest, and in the second half it opened up. We hear a lot of mention about, Pierce, number 10 for Chambers and what he does on the defensive side. And of course, we all know about Hollywood on the offensive side. I mean, I think looking back, I think you guys did a pretty good job, maintaining both. But then they have those moments where you just look back and say, well, golly, we were right there. I mean, are there things that you see that hopefully you can try to do to contain, or, what do you feel like your approach is, going to go in this game, or is it any different than before?
Well, I think our best approach for Pierce is to invite him over to our sideline and dress him out in Cardinal Gibbons gear. That's going to be the best way to slow him down. I told him after the game in week one, I said, listen, man, you're an NFL talent, and take care of your business because you're going to be playing on Sundays. He's incredibly disruptive. And obviously we're going to have something in place to help slow him down. You can't stop him, but the hope is you can kind of minimize his impact to a degree. Probably the most talented defensive player I've seen in 20 years of high school football. And then of course, with Hollywood, he's explosive. He can take it to the house at any time. And we're going to have to be really disciplined on defense. We can't, miss run fits. We can't, get caught up on the back end being in the wrong place because he'll take it to the house in a hurry.
Hey, Coach, you've gone through a gauntlet of a who's list of players here in this state. You mentioned Pierce, you've mentioned Hollywood, who is our reigning Mr. Football, but we're giving away our 2021 Mr. Football award this upcoming week. You've also had to go in back-to-back weeks. Seemingly, you had to go against Omarion Hampton. You've had to go against Byron Brown. How do you guys keep your team up for that? I mean, how do you guys respond to that challenge of playing those top-tier players, but also just kind of how, in all of you as a coach, we always want to see special talent and see it perform right before our eyes. How is it for you to see these great players and know that you've had a chance to beat them all?
Yeah, well, first off, each of those players that you've named are incredibly talented. God has given them a gift. And, just as kind of if I remove myself from my role, seeing them on film it's a pleasure to watch, because you're watching, talent that you just don't see very often. And, I can tell you then seeing them in person, it's even more impressive. And so, it's been fun and it's been awesome to see our kids rise to the challenge. And I think we've taken that as a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. We're the underdog. I think most people in the state probably picked Cleveland when we played them. I think a lot of people in the state didn't think we could slow down Roseville, and we held them to 13 points for 3 quarters. So I've been just really proud of the way our kids have responded. And I don't know that it's been, there hadn't been any extra kind of coaching, rah-rah type of speech. It's been our kids just, rising to that challenge and going out there and getting it done. And as you guys know, when you're in the playoffs, there's not a whole lot of motivation needed. Yeah. You just know we got to win if we want to practice next week, because if we don't, we're turning our gear in.
Definitely. And that, that's the worst time of year when you tell the kids, hey, you got to turn your helmet over here to the left, shoulder pads to the right. Yep. But, I talked a lot about, Chambers before. I want to come and bring it back, to you guys. I mean, you guys have had some great players. You talk Connor Clark, the quarterback with 2,600 yards passing, Donovan Shepard, running the ball over 2,000 yards. And, the defensive side led by Will Mason with, defensive coordinator Nick Drew. Can you talk a little bit about both sides of the ball and just how you guys have been able to be so successful this year?
Yeah, I think we've found a really good balance as the season has gone with our offense. Connor's done a great job, really kind of commanding that offense, getting guys lined up in the right places, knowing exactly what we're trying to do schematically, and, taking those shots when they're available, making right reads, in both the run and the pass game. And he's been just a really solid field general for us that has now, when you look back, we've played, I think, 25 games, if I'm not mistaken, in about 10 months here. He was 9-1 in the spring, and then we're sitting here at 13-2 in the fall. And he's just done a tremendous job, really, as our field general, leading our offense down that field. And Donovan Shepard's been, certainly not hard to argue, has been a difference maker, certainly in the run game. But he's also helped open up the pass game. And so, those two have been important pieces for us. But we've also got a really talented kind of skill group around them that where we've been able to take some shots at times, get the ball out quick at times, and make plays in some areas where I think most people kind of overlook in terms of the general population, the average fan. And so we found a really good balance on offense, and it served us well. I think defensively, absolutely. Will Mason on the back end of our defense, Carter Skierce at linebacker, Savoy New, Ryan Ziegler at linebacker, but also, and I think most importantly, our defensive line has just been unbelievable. Most people look at us and say we're a little bit undersized, but I think we've got a lot of athleticism up there, and we've been able to slow people down just with our skill across all 3 levels of our defense. And obviously Nick Drew's done a great job, our entire staff. Bill Leedy, my offensive coordinator, Josh Proctor, my special teams coordinator, and then Nick Drew. Those 3 guys have just done a great job kind of managing each of those phases of the game and really helping put our kids in a position to succeed.
Well, Coach Wright, again, we appreciate you joining us this evening. One final question from me. The game being played on Saturday, seemingly right across the street from your campus over at Carter Finley Stadium at NC State. How does that help you with the logistics side of things, with practice, just moving things right across the street? And is that any kind of an advantage for your team heading into this game against Chambers?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily an advantage. I think it's certainly a cool thing for us. Our campus is literally located across the street from Carter Finley Stadium. And, we're going to embrace that. We're going to enjoy that opportunity. In fact, you may find us just walking across the street and walking over to the game. No reason to fire up a bus for this one. And, we're looking forward to being out there on Saturday night.
Well, Coach Stephen Wright, again, winners of the 4A Eastern bracket are going to take on Chambers on Saturday in the state championship game. We appreciate you joining Coach Grice and I here on Talking Preps Overtime. I want to wish you good luck, and we'll be seeing you on Saturday.
Appreciate it. Coach Grice, Chris, appreciate all you guys do. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach Stephen Wright, Cardinal Gibbons High School. And also now we're going to head into the Talking Preps OT, and we're going to bring on the head football coach of the Chambers Cougars, Coach Glenwood Farabee. I got a chance to see you on Friday night, that big victory over Huff. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, he's in the car now. It's business time. That man's in the car. I know we are going to get some good stuff. Coach, I've got to start, being at that game. I told you, talked to you before, that was one of the most incredible games I think I'd seen. Can you talk a little bit about that roller coaster and just how, even though, it may have been a roller coaster as far as the score, your guys seem to stay in the moment all the time. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, man. I think it was emotional for everybody. I know I teared up at the beginning of the game. I know I almost teared up at the end of it. And a couple of other coaches on the staff, had some emotions that were flowing. And it was probably one of the best games I've been a part of, man. Just the back and forth, the fight and the will of the kids, just to be in that moment on the sideline, to hear the kids, rallying behind each other. And that's the stuff that you can't coach. You know what I mean? So they just have to have that. And, with us being in the positions we've been in over the last couple of years, that really, really helped us get through that game.
Can you, go into talking about coaching James Pierce? I mean, I think everybody wants to know. I mean, he's a guy, and Guru and I've talked about this on the side. If we had certain stats to quantify what he could do, I think he would be, the best player in the state to point to some of those things. Watching him, you see a completely different managing of the game by a player who's better than most everybody on the field.
Yeah, he's dominant, man. He can be dominant anywhere. He can play linebacker for us. He can play DN for us. He can play wide out for us. He just brings so much to the table with his size, length, and athleticism. But his raw emotions going into games and during games is kind of on the level of Power Echols. They don't do it the same way. He doesn't do it the same way Power does, but you can see the kids feed off of his energy and emotion the same way they fed off of Power Echols when Power was here.
Definitely, and I, definitely want to kind of talk and get into this game. It's a rematch. Again, I'm praying that there are no thunderstorms going in this game. Just talk about the rematch with Gibbons. Going back, feel like it's been ages ago, and your team's a completely different team. But getting into some of the little preparation that you guys have done, what are you kind of seeing? What is your focus this week in practice?
Focusing on the fundamentals and execution. Cardinal Gibbons, they're not going to make a lot of mistakes, and we learned that the first game. They're well coached. Their coaching staff does a great job with them, man. I mean, when I say they're fundamentally sound, I mean that in every sense of the word. They play the game the right way. They play the game the right way, and that's why they don't make a lot of mistakes. So we gotta match that and still keep our energy and still keep our passion for the game. But we have to limit our mistakes as well to give ourselves a chance to win.
Yeah, and we just, of course, had Coach Wright on. He talked about even literally walking his team across the street to the game. I mean, they're that close. We're a little bit further. I mean, we've been debating back and forth on the show. It's been a hot topic, of the home field advantage and what that could potentially bring. Do you guys feel that? And I know in a weird way, y'all are almost more comfortable being away from home. So can you talk about that mindset as it relates to being away from home and, how you think you can prepare your team for that?
Basically, it's a home game for them. That's how we're going to approach it. Even though we're the home team, it's a home game for them. All the fans is going to be there. Our fans are going to be there, but not like it would be if we were playing at University of Charlotte. If we were playing at University of Charlotte, it'd be a different feel for us. And that's the same feel that they're going to have playing in Raleigh. And we know that. And that's going to be one of the motivational things, that we're going to their place. So we're going to have to bring our A game. Their fans, possibly the referees, going to play a factor into the game. We played in Raleigh last year. I think we had like 20 penalties in the first half. We went down to Cardinal Gibbons. It was the same thing in the first half. So we know we're going with our back against the wall going down there. So that's going to be the motivation for the next 4 or 5 days to get these kids mindset on we got to go down there and conquer their territory.
Coach, I've seen you guys throughout this season from film and then when you played in September on through last night. And I've just seen a maturation of this team. I've seen a growth from day one to today. I've said this to Coach Grice that, often this time of year, sophomores are not really sophomores. Juniors aren't really juniors anymore because they've had a whole season of practice. And I just wanted to ask you what you guys do in practice to kind of build that toughness or that grittiness, because I could see it in those guys' eyes. They could have easily folded up and gave up when they were down big to Huff, but you guys were able to find the wheel to get yourselves back in it. So how do you prepare that toughness or build that toughness in the kids?
So basically, we don't practice a conventional way that normally I would do, where we go 24 periods and we move every 5 minutes. Now we kind of slow practice down where the kids can actually get group time to be able to gel, especially up front with our offensive linemen. And we don't normally go against a scout team and run scout team plays of the other team, but maybe once a week. We focus more on going against each other good on good. Our defense running what we run, our offense running what they run, so we can simulate what it would be in the game. And our kids have fun with it. They talk trash, and we encourage the trash talk just to create some type of adversity in practice that would lead to the game. So now when we get to the game, it's not hard to handle when the game is not going the way that you think it should go. And you have to rise to the occasion. And I think our offensive line has done that. And they've been going against probably one of the best D-line, if not the best D-line in the state every day in practice. So when those lanes open up for Hollywood in practice, they feel confident in games that they can go, pretty much block anybody. And I think that's been the biggest maturation. Kevin Concepcion, he is who he is. Hollywood is who he is. James Pierce, he is who he is. So the practice for them is a little different because we're focusing on more scheme things with them, because fundamentally they're already, pretty much where they need to be as far as maturity. It was just with the offensive line, so we slowed down practice for those guys. So now when game times come, it's pretty much practice for the most part.
Understood, Coach. Looking forward to the matchup in Raleigh. Gibbons, of course, it was an epic, long 7-hour game the first time. But, you're looking at it from a coach's standpoint. You got a quarterback in Connor Clark for them that has 2,600 yards, 26 touchdowns. I don't know too many quarterbacks that you face with that stat line. You got Donovan Shepard, the running back, a 2,000-yard running back. Haven't faced too many of those guys. They seem to boast and bring some elite talent both on offense and defense. How do you feel about going into it the second time, facing that defense again, and just, even Gibbons as a whole? How would you compare them? Because a lot of people want to know, are they really that good? How would they do in the West? So kind of get into that a little bit, Coach.
They put you in the mindset of a Hickory Ridge, Weddington, but I think they're more grittier. I think they got more grit. That they can play. I think they can play out here in the West. And I know, a lot of people say the West and the East are totally different, but I think they can survive out here. Like I said, they're well coached fundamentally. They play the game the right way. Their quarterback is very, very savvy. Like I said, he puts you in the mindset of Hickory Ridge's quarterback, where he doesn't make too many bad decisions. So we have to make sure we're executing and firing on all cylinders, or we're going to be for a tough battle with those guys.
Well, Coach, I know, again, it's going to be a big-time matchup. I know you're going to have a lot of support from IBM Drive going all the way up to Carter Finley. I know you're on the move. When I know you're on the move, Coach, you're getting it happening. So I know you guys have your meeting coming up here shortly, so hopefully you guys have great preparation. Good luck. Go do what you do. I mean, 3P puts you in a big in the pantheon of some of the great Charlotte coaches. So your legacy is in front of you. We're glad that you were able to stop by on Talking Preps.
All right, guys, we're down to the final three for the Mr. Football Awards. How tough has this been for you guys to narrow this down from a state with this much talent?
I feel like I talk to Guru every day. Like we're texting about something, or like we'll look at at some film, or he'll point out a highlight and say, "Did you see that, Grice?" So it's been crazy, but I mean, it's been a blessing to look at this much talent, guys doing what they do at this time of year, and I mean, I'm excited to get to this point and just what comes from that.
Well, here's the first guy you guys picked as a finalist. It is Mr. Byron Brown out of Roseville High School. Chris, what did you see about Byron that made you feel like he needed to be one of your finalists?
Well, about 15 years ago, you called former Butler running back Anthony Short PlayStation.
Yes.
Well, I think that this young man right here has been putting up PlayStation-like numbers all year long. I mean, 42 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 3,600 yards passing, pushing 1,500 yards rushing. Just an excellent leader on the field. Terrific student, just everything that I would ever want in a leader of my team if I was coaching football. This young man, I just think he's got it all. I think that he's going to be an incredible asset at the collegiate level, moving on. And I just think that he has just had one of the more special years that I've seen maybe here in the last 20 or 25 years.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. Well, we had a chance to sit down with him this week. We're going to roll this tape right here.
The highlight of the season for me is just overcoming the adversity that we faced in the beginning. We had 2 early losses to some good opponents, but the team rallying back and putting their best foot forward each week and just making it to where we are right now in the playoffs and the semifinals that's probably been the highlight of the season. I've had to work extremely hard. I'd say my biggest jump in my game was over quarantine, over COVID last year. I was working hard each and every single day. I probably had 1 rest day, which I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do, but I had 1 rest day because I wanted to be where I am today. Being Mr. Football in North Carolina, it means a lot because I put in a lot of hard work, and also the people around me, my teammates, the coaches, their belief in me and their time with me has also showed. So it's not just for me, it's for the whole Roseville football team and as well as the school, and it reflects my parents and all the people that supported me. If I win, first person I'll probably tell is my parents and my brother, because their hard work and sacrifice, getting me trainers and all that, it has shaped me into the person I am and the player I am. So I'll probably tell them first.
All right, Grice, our next Mr. Football finalist is a guy that you talked about a lot on Grice's Gems. His games, he had 7 touchdowns. Games, he had 5 touchdowns. He's going to North Carolina. He's a big body kid, Omarion Hampton of Cleveland High School. What are you seeing here?
I mean, a man amongst boys. I mean, I think, with the film playing against, some good competition, he's able to do, whatever he is. And I think he's like the thermostat. He controls the temperature wherever he is. You're playing a team like even with Cardinal Gibbons, he's still going to get his and be an extraordinary talent amongst a great team. That's the thing I like about him. He's just consistently great. And when you do that, you have a chance to be in the finalists.
Chris, this kid is going to be special at Chapel Hill, you think? Immediate impact player?
Oh, I think he's a guy that can play immediately on Saturdays this upcoming football season. He reminds me a lot of an Emmitt Smith or somebody like that who can run between the tackles, who doesn't get slowed down when it gets in a traffic jam. He's got tremendous vision. But what sets him apart is once he gets through that initial mess of the box, he can go out to the secondary and just has track speed, and he looks for somebody to hit. I just think that he is a very physical specimen of a player and just one of the best I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay. Well, we also got a chance to sit down with him as well. We'll run his tape. Here you go.
being Mr. Football in North Carolina, I feel like it would be a dream. So I feel like it's something that really means importance to me. Because I feel like a lot of people look at it and I feel like I can take that role and then just help other people out by that. But really just coming back since after my injury last year and then just working 2-4-7, practice every day hard, and then try to get my team on track, and then they keep me in track and everything like that. So yeah. I think I sacrificed a lot, just being out here like 2-4-7, nonstop working. I knew it was gonna be hard, but it's like something I have to do. So if I win, I feel like coaches, friends, family, I feel like everybody put in just to help me. I have a lot of supporters and everything like that.
All right, guys. So it's not often that a kid wins Mr. Football as a sophomore, Grace, but he's back again as a finalist. Dalen Smothers out of Chambers High School, having another amazing season. His numbers aren't the same as the other two guys. Why did you guys pick him? Is it all about numbers? Is it about something else?
It's impact. I mean, if you were able to watch the Western Region Final, you know, he was able to start and keep his team while they were on life support. He still kept them with a heartbeat early on in that game. And then when his team needed him the most, he was the most impactful and dominant player on the field towards the end of the game. Maybe the only other shout that you could have is his teammate. But he was the guy, you know, and earlier in the season when they didn't really need him, you could tell that they were trying to get other guys the ball. But when it came to money time and they needed this guy to be, you know, the greatest player on the team, he did that and he delivered in a big way. And he's the reason why he's one of the only ones playing and the only one playing out of the finalists.
Yeah, Chris, you've been really high on Smothers all season long. You give him some – I mean, you gave Brown and Hampton really high praise as well. What do you see from Smothers?
Well, in that game Friday night against Huff, Huff has what I think to be the best defensive front in the entire state. I mean, man for man, physically, athletically, well coached. They smothered the Chambers offense, and it was that third down play, inside zone play that Smothers took it 30 or 78 yards to the house. And just to watch the electricity and the moves and the cuts and, you know, almost the ankle breaking moves that he made on a few of those defensive players before just turning on the next level jets. It was just amazing to see. And yeah, he doesn't have the stats that the other guys have, but they also don't rely on him like some teams do. You know, I have no doubt that he could be at a team where he got the ball 45, 50 times a game, and he might have rushed for 5,000 yards this year. He has that ability, but the team didn't need it. But it was obvious to me to see that when that game was on the line, he's the guy they gave the ball to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we had a chance also to sit down with the guy they call Hollywood. Great nickname for high school kid. This week, here's his tape.
You know, it's a lot of highlights this year, honestly. We've been learning a lot together, fighting through adversity in games. It's been a lot for me personally. I've been learning a lot as the season been going along. Personally, I'll say just growing as a team. It's been a lot since I was 5 years old, since I've been introduced to the game by my dad, just learning hard work. And to be honest, getting to high school, I really learned the definition of hard work and seeing what I'm working on actually display and show on the field. And so after that, after noticing what I'm working on, and it just happens, it becomes second nature after so many times of working on it. It makes you want to do it more, and knowing that you're getting better working on something, it makes you want to keep doing it. Being Mr. Football in North Carolina would mean a lot, because I feel like I earned it. I put in the work day in and day out, and honestly, it would mean a lot to me. It feel like I'm making somebody notice what I'm doing on the field. Like it means like people are paying attention to me, and that's seeing what I'm doing and seeing how I'm handling business on the field. So it definitely means a lot for me.
All right, we're going to be back later on in the show. We're going to bring, I think Sam's going to join us to give out the award and see who Chris and Grice had picked as Mr. Football. We're also going to do the super team coming up. So Coach getting in those nominations and do this week, because we're going to try to meet and pick the super team. But, you know, it's a big honor. All the people that were nominated this year, I think we started out with 24. It was phenomenal. We're going to talk about some guys who could potentially be on the list next year once we give out the award. So stay tuned. Right now, we're going to turn it over and bring in the coach from Shelby.
All right, Coach Grice, we talked about the epic battle this Friday night in the 2A. East Surrey, who had been to four straight fifth round games now, regional final games in Shelby, a battle of what I think to be what was the two of the best junior quarterbacks in the state going head-to-head. That's probably a preview of next year's Mr. Football, quite honestly. But Coach Mike Wilbanks, Shelby High School, the Golden Lions was able to prevail. They're going to take on Wallace Rose Hill this Saturday. Coach Wilbanks, all you guys at Shelby seem to do is win, and win a lot. And here you are again.
I think it is a culture that has been in place in Shelby long before I got to Shelby. It's been there. I think somebody came up to me after the game and said, this is the 7th straight decade that Shelby has played in the state championship game. So it's something our kids grow up hearing about in the community, something that is instilled in them in our little leagues and middle school programs. And it's just something they expect to do and they strive for.
And before I talk about the upcoming game against Wallace Rose Hill, which is, again, one of those other premier programs with just a storied background, tons and tons and tons of history and championships, I just want to backtrack one second. How special was it to be a part of a game like that with Reedsville a couple of weeks ago? Because that is more state championships on one field than any other two schools in the state combined. That had to be a special moment.
It was special. It was special for both communities because both fan bases want to see that, because I'm not on message boards or anything, but people tell me that the fans like to argue about that a lot. So it was cool to get both those storied programs on the field at the same time. And just a great atmosphere. It was electric that night. A lot of fun to be a part of.
Well, your defense were able to stop those offensive juggernauts of Reedsville. You stopped Folger Boaz and East Surrey this week in a big way, limiting them to 2 touchdowns. Now, tell me, how are you going to find a way to get that powerful defense of yours to stop Kanye Roberts? And by the way, I think he's got about 3 other running backs in the backfield that have 1,000 yards as well at Wallace Rose Hill.
They definitely have a stable of running backs, and they do a great job of misdirection and getting the ball in different people's hands. And we're going to have our work cut out for us. But our defensive coaches, I know, will get in there, and we faced some good running backs this year as well. We faced the Justin Hill kid at East Gaston, who was a great running back. We faced the Adams kid at Crest. And there's just a lot of good running backs that we faced this year, but not many of them have 2 or 3 of them in the backfield at the same time, which is going to be a different animal for us. But they do pose a great challenge. But I like our guys up front. I like our defensive front, our front 7, especially against the run. And we're going to have to be solid this Saturday to take on what I think will be our biggest challenge yet as far as a running threat.
Definitely, Coach. And I kind of want to, get into talking about, being the head coach at Shelby High School. I mean, I think, can you let people know? Because, you guys have such a rich storied history. And coming in, everyone knows, like, hey, this is an annual tradition. It's Thanksgiving, playing on, practice on Thanksgiving morning, getting ready to get to that final. And then now in December, we know it's winning time. So talk a little bit about that and how it almost feels like it's Shelby State, state title winning, team or bust.
Yeah, and it's kind of a necessary evil. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it's expected. There's a lot of pressure on me, on our coaches, on our players to get here every year, and not a lot of programs understand that pressure. I tell people about it, but we enjoy it. We embrace it. We don't shy away from talking about the expectation. I'd rather be somewhere where they want to be here, they expect to be here, than the other end of it, where somebody is. I don't want to be at a program where they don't want to be playing in December, or they don't care if you are or not. So that pressure, yeah, it is a pressure-packed situation, but we don't focus on the pressure. We just focus on embracing it and meeting the challenge. And the one thing I try to tell our kids, and I know a lot of coaches do this, but we don't go into a season thinking about the state championship. If it comes up, we talk about it, but we are going to focus on being 1-0 each week, and I preach that every week. We come to work every Monday, and all we got to do is be 1-0 that week. We ain't got to try to be 16-0 in week 1. We got to be 1-0 after week 1. So, yeah, it's an expectation, but it's fun to be part of such a great tradition and great culture.
Coach, we see the incredible defense that you've got. And I've seen, you've had an incredible defensive staff and a lot of great coaches, a lot of great players. The offense typically is the side of the ball that gets all the acclaim. but Malachi Hamrick is one of the best guys I've seen. We've seen him do some big things in the game, but how are practices with all that talent? Because I can imagine that practices, these guys are really flying around the practice field and getting after it. What's it like just to see those guys put in the hours when nobody else sees it?
It's practice can get intense. Matter of fact, last Tuesday we ended up having a real physical practice just because Malachi and Santana and a lot of our other guys decided they wanted to get in on scout defense against the offense, and got the juices flowing a little bit. But those guys love to work; they love to compete. Not only Malachi and Santana, but our whole defense takes pride in trying to stop an opposition, and it's just kind of they've always had it. Shelby, we've been known for high-powered offenses here lately, but Shelby has always been known for defense, and they've always stressed defense wins championships, and that's we got a good one right now, and we can put some points on the board. Hopefully, our defense can keep the opponent out of the end zone and give us a chance to have a chance to win.
Well, for Wallace Rose Hill, their head football coach, Kevin Motzinger, he has been to state championships at several schools, one of the best coaches out of the Eastern bracket. We mentioned Kanye Roberts and that incredible backfield. But without giving away all of your game plan, just kind of give me the game plan of what you think it's going to take for the Golden Lions to come away victorious, because they have also been through a gauntlet of incredible playoff games. They've played a who's who list of some of the best teams in the state, including a pretty tough, aggressive schedule in the regular season. So I don't think that they're going to line up and be scared that Shelby's lining up across from them. I think they're very seasoned as well. So what's it going to take for you guys to come away?
Well, they're a lot like us. They're not afraid to play anybody. I know they went down to, I lived on their schedule. They went down to North Myrtle Beach and played early in the season, which is a storied 4A program, I think, in South Carolina. And, I think for us going against them, they remind me a little bit of back in 2013. We played out of the 4 rounds of playoffs. We played 3 of them on the road, and I know they've been on the road a lot here lately, and they're winning, and so they're kind of in a groove right now and playing really well. And but they're a lot like us. They got athletes who can hurt you if you don't tackle them, if you don't hem them up. So I think for us, from a defensive standpoint, we got to get off the field. We got to limit the big play. Try not let those running backs get into open space, because if they do, they're going to leave you. And so our defense can get off the field, and then offensively, we just got to take what they give us. We may not be able to hit home runs, but we're going to have to hit singles and doubles and try to keep the ball moving. And of course, it's always going to come down to turnovers. In a big game like a state championship game, if you can limit turnovers and limit penalties, you got a chance to be successful.
That's great, and I like you talked about your singles and doubles. I mean, you got a home run hitter in the offensive backfield and quarterback Dalen Lee. I mean, I feel like every year you guys have a long line of just storied quarterbacks that have done great things, taking over for Isaiah Best. It's been great to see him continue to grow and put up big numbers in big games. Can you talk about coaching him and just some of the great things and why the sky seems to be the limit for him no matter what game is going on?
Well, it's good to have a kid like Dalen. I was talking to a couple weeks ago, the Reedsville broadcast team was called me before the Reedsville game and asked me about him. He's literally the first one on the practice field. A lot of times he'll beat me out there, and I pride myself in getting out there early. But he's going to get out there early and work and get himself prepared. He loves watching film. He does the same thing in the weight room. He's the first in the weight room, last out, make sure everything's cleaned up. He's fun to coach. Makes great grades. He's got a great personality. He's very respectful. But he's an ultra competitor. I mean, he gets mad when he misses a throw, or he gets mad if somebody doesn't run the right route, and he knows that we would have been open. But a lot of credit goes to him, and he goes and works out on his own a lot, does a lot of stuff on his own. A lot of credit goes to our coaching staff. You talk about a long line of good quarterbacks. Our coaches do a good job of developing those quarterbacks. Coach Emery, our offensive coordinator, does a good job, not only physically with our quarterbacks, but mentally, helping them prepare for games. And Dalen is just the next in that line. And good players make good coaches a lot of times, and that's the story here with Dalen and a lot of our guys we got on our team.
Well, again, Coach Mike Wilbanks, Shelby High School, we're going to be there watching you guys this weekend as y'all go for yet another state championship to hang on the banners up there at the stadium and in the gymnasium. But, Coach, thanks for joining Grice and I this morning or today for this previewing this upcoming game. We can't wait to watch the game and just want to wish you guys the best of luck.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you guys having me, and see you on Saturday.
All right, we'll be there. Again, that is Shelby High School football coach Mike Wilbanks. His team will take on Wallace Rose Hill in that epic 2A championship. And, man, again, it just gets better and better and better, these matchups, Coach.
Definitely. I'm excited to see it. I mean, it's money time now. You know, it's a time for guys to really step up and cement their legacy in the game. So, got to love it.
You know what it's also time to do now? It's time to pick Mr. Football. Whew. Okay, so now it's time for the moment of truth. I got to bring the star of the show on, Sam Griner, who's going to make the big announcement. We got to bring Grice and Chris back. This is the third Mr. Football we've named. It was called the North Carolina High School Heisman last year, but it's been a big award. I know the kids looking forward to it. How hard is it for you guys? And I know, Griner, you weren't picking it, but how hard is it for you guys to come down and figure out who it is going to be? I'm tongue tied.
It's incredibly difficult. I mean, I think you have a lot of guys that out there that are well deserving, even, with our finalists. I mean, these are incredible athletes that have done a lot for their schools and done a lot for their team. And again, with Brown and Smothers, I mean, they were here just a few months ago when we named the Heisman then. So I think it's tough even trying to get a fresh look every year because you know how great these individual kids are. So I think that's the tough part of really looking in the the general context of this season. When I just remember in March I saw them do something crazy, or in May I saw them do something extraordinary. So
Absolutely.
That's the toughest part for me.
Absolutely. Now, Griner, you did not know who the finalists were until just now. Did they get it right? Was there somebody that you would have liked to have seen on there?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the final three are right. There's one guy that I think makes a huge impact for his team. I think that James Pierce should have been in the close to the final three if he went like 3B. If we had to bring 4 in, he would definitely be the next guy in. Just his impact on the game and the way he's so explosive. People have to game plan against him on the defense side of the ball. He's going to be special, but we'll see more and more from him, no doubt. But he was by far the best defensive player in the state.
All right, Sam, well, as we do every year, it's time for you to give out the biggest award in North Carolina. Who's it going to be?
Well, to be honest with you, all three of these guys are fantastic. And, we talked about it every week, and they keep on impressing everybody. But the one guy that came on the show with his tank top on scared everybody. Amarion Hampton from Cleveland County. He's our North Carolina Mr. Football. Congratulations.
Right, congratulations, Amarion. Congratulations. Chris, is this the right call?
I think it is. Memorion has just been a special player at Cleveland High School. Phenomenal numbers, as you can see right there from the card. And just to kind of circle back to what you guys said leading up to the announcement, the responsibility that Coach Grice and I have really put on our shoulders in making sure that we did our homework on picking the right persons. And Coach Griner's right. The 3 finalists, any of them, we couldn't have gone wrong with any one of them. Byron Brown was sensational. Obviously, Hollywood Dalen Smothers was incredible, and I'll even throw in Jalen Walker at Salisbury. I mean, the finals that we had to choose from was amazing. But this guy, I've said it many times, I think he's a guy that can show up on campus at the University of North Carolina and can be their starting running back from day one. Heck, he's so versatile and so strong and so dynamic. He could maybe even start on linebacker for him. Who knows? This was a man amongst boys. His numbers speak for themselves, and I'm pretty impressed with it. And congratulations to him on this very impressive honor.
Bryce, your thoughts?
he's a kid that, shown no matter who he's playing, I mean, his greatness is unquestioned, and I think we saw that even in the Gibbons game, his last game of his career. I mean, he showed he's one of the best players in the state, just continued to be consistent. 11 100-yard games, a guy that, no matter what was going on, he was going to produce and put up big numbers. So kudos to him. That was a phenomenal season, and definitely glad that he won the award.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really tough call. I mean, looking at what these guys are going through, I mean, Grice was like rubbing his forehead and back and trying to figure it out. I mean, it was a really hard call because this state is producing a lot of high-level football talent. We were talking about the super team earlier. We're going to pick that very soon. Coaches, get your nominations in. It's amazing when you start looking around and seeing the talent. We are very familiar with Charlotte and Raleigh, obviously, but when you start getting outside of those areas, as Chris is always encouraging me to do, you see some phenomenal talent. And I think, Marion, I think that's the right call. I think he's on the king of the hill this season, and it's no slight to anybody else. I mean, he just had a phenomenal season for Cleveland, and as Sam said, he was the most important player on a really good football team. And, you can say that about a lot of guys, but I think he had just a tremendous season.
He literally carried his team, and no disrespect to the team, but that team normally gets beat by Cardinal Gibbons by 30 or 40 points fast. And he single-handedly can just do so much, and it made it a big game between the two.
All right, well, that's Mr. Football for this year. But let's talk about some of the candidates for next year, Chris. What do you see here?
Well, I see a bunch of really good football players. A few of them were in the very seriously consideration in us, even for Mr. Football this year as underclassmen. Of course, Dalen Lee right there at Shelby is a guy that really impresses me. He went head-to-head with Folger Boaz, quarterback at East Surrey this past Friday night. So we know what he's like. Chris Culliver, he's a D1 blue chip, a receiver at Maiden. And talk about another SEC, maybe even NFL-bound receiver in Noah Rogers up there at Rollsville. Keith Sampson is one of those just big dynamic linemen at Newbern. Obviously Smothers, I mean, we can't forget about him, the previous Mr. Football Award winner. Ty Turberfield, we'll get a chance to see him in the state championships this week. Marquise McCombs, I mean, he for a long part of the year was leading the nation in rushing. Amari Odom, I think, is the leading passer this year.
That's correct.
Keon Abdul-Rahim at Providence Day. I mean, that guy's just off the chain good. Mason Fortune, I mean, we talked about him. Christian Hamilton at Hickory. Harvey, J. Bron Harvey at Southern Durham. I mean, he's
like 50 sacks or something.
I mean, Tad Hudson. I mean, we can't forget about Tad Hudson. I mean, good golly. I mean, that guy.
Eddie Dimes. Shout out to Kizzy.
That is great. I mean, Dalen Smothers, I mean, watching him in a game, his impact is so great. I mean, he is special. Best outside zone guy I've ever seen in the history. I mean, He's really good. And just his numbers, his team is so good. His numbers are not necessarily as impressive as some of the guys that were this year, but he still made the Final Three just because of his impact of the game.
Yeah. No, it's an impressive list, been an impressive season. We'll definitely look forward to kicking off next season with an official Mr. Football watch list. This is certainly unofficial, but hope you guys will watch. We'll be counting them down every week on Talking Preps. And thanks again to Chris and to Grice for putting in so many hours above and beyond to make this thing work. Sam, thanks for coming on, start the show, making a big announcement. So
big kudos to those two down below. I mean, they do a phenomenal job of researching and put a lot of hours in for these young guys to get some exposure. And we couldn't do the show without those two, for no doubt.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm Langston. That's Coach Sam Grinder, star of the show, Coach Grice, and the guru, Chris Hughes, the #1 voice of high school football. We're signing off. Good luck to everybody. State championships this weekend.